The film opens with a man named Ryland Grace waking up from an induced coma inside a pod aboard a spacecraft. The onboard AI voice announces eye movement detected and starts helping Grace get his bearings. The AI runs a cognition test. What is 2 plus 2? He answers incorrectly, twice. The computer informs him he may experience memory loss and difficulty speaking. He pulls himself out of the pod regardless of warnings, but his muscles are not ready. His limbs are weak and clumsy right now. He shouts down empty corridors, but nobody responds. He discovers that none of his crew members are alive. Wandering the ship, he encounters an atomic resolution scanning electron microscope and knows instantly what it is, even though he has no idea who he is. He asks aloud, "Why do I know that? Am I smart?" No answer comes. At the ship's computer, he asks who is in charge. The computer tells him he is the only one alive. He gives commands like Houston and Operation Go Home, and the AI says it is an invalid command. The computer tells him transmission time back to Earth will take 11 years, 10 months, 14 days, 6 hours. In shock, he demands a map, and it confirms everything. That is not the sun outside. It is a completely different star. Grace is light years from Earth, with no memory of how he arrived, no knowledge of his mission, and no visible fuel. He is utterly alone. The film cuts to the past. A news broadcast covers the Arclight probe's flyby of the Petrova line near Venus, a streak of infrared light discovered 2 years earlier by an amateur astronomer named Irina Petrova. Scientists watch live footage from the probe's microscope. The footage causes immediate uproar. Something is moving inside the line, tiny dots visible only in infrared. The scientist abruptly excuses herself mid-sentence, visibly shaken. The scene cuts to a middle school classroom. Ryland Grace is a warm, energetic science teacher, extracting the speed of light from students through the thread of a pretend lava game. A girl named Rika asks whether the space dots are eating the sun. Grace explains that the dots are dimming the sun, just slightly for now, but over 30 years, Earth could cool by 10 to 15 degrees. Rika says the crops would fail, and half of humanity could starve. Grace assures her the best minds in the world are working on it. Back in the present, Grace drifts through the ship, going through his belongings and his dead crewmates' possessions, trying to piece together who he is and why he is here. In the past, Eva Strag appears at Grace's classroom.
She is with the Petrova task force and holds up a paper Grace once wrote wanting to discuss page 31, which talks about his argument that water is not a prerequisite for life. Grace is fired from academia for that position and for calling a leading scholar a staggering waste of carbon at a UNESCO conference. Strat is indifferent. She presses, does he still believe water is necessary for life? He argues that Earth needs it, but a world with different chemistry might not. Then she delivers the hook. Petrova line samples splashed down last night. Whatever lives in that line survives on the surface of the sun. Does that sound like a water-based organism? Grace is suited up and led into a sterile argon-filled chamber. He asks whether he is expendable. Eva concludes they would prefer he not die. He thanks them sarcastically. Inside, he sweeps through every form of electromagnetic radiation and sees nothing. The samples are completely opaque across the entire spectrum. He tries another method and determines it's a tiny alien cell. He declares first contact with extraterrestrial life, erupting with excitement, but the cell suddenly dies. The room falls silent. Grace pivots. Now they can determine what it is made of. The analysis returns carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen. Grace, who built his entire academic identity on the idea that life does not require water, stares at the results and is heartbroken. He was wrong about the only original idea he ever had. But the sample's death yields something vital. These organisms emit extraordinary amounts of infrared light when moving, matching exactly the Petrova frequency. They consume the sun's energy and expel it for propulsion. Grace summarizes, they toot to scoot. They are a living spacecraft. Eva asks why did they go to Venus when Mercury is closer. Grace doesn't have an answer. Eva begins packing to leave. Grace protests, saying he wants to help more. Eva asks 347 biologists across 21 countries looking for answers. Grace stops her and says he was being modest, when in reality he is a highly skilled molecular biologist. Eva says she needs people who believe they're right when their entire field says otherwise. She offers him a place on the project with 3 surviving samples. He takes the deal. Now on the task force, Grace works with his security detail, Carl, to determine why the organisms, named as astrophage, which means a star eater, migrated to Venus. They build a makeshift Venus simulator, a plywood box emitting infrared light at the CO2 frequency to test whether astrophage moves toward carbon dioxide.
The experiment immediately goes sideways. The astrophage escape the slide and disappear into the box. Grace and Carl enclose one box inside another to prevent the astrophage from escaping. Grace climbs inside the dark and manually catches the samples. He collects 3, then a 4th is seen. The astrophage have reproduced. Astrophage uses carbon dioxide as a part of its reproductive process. Strat sends a military aircraft to extract Grace and bring him to a facility in the middle of the ocean. Barely recovered, Grace is surrounded by an international room of scientists demanding answers. He explains the plywood box experiment. Astrophage breathes in Venus's carbon dioxide-rich atmosphere. One scientist asks how long it would take to manufacture 2 million kilograms of astrophage. Grace cannot imagine why anyone would need that quantity. It becomes clear no one has told him the full picture. He is granted top-secret clearance on the spot by Ava. The full picture is revealed. Every star in Earth's solar neighborhood has been infected by the astrophage, each catching it from its neighbor, except one, Tau Ceti, 11.9 light-years away. It sits within the infected cluster but remains completely undimmed. Nobody knows why. A ship named Hail Mary has been secretly built to go there and find out. Astrophage is the fuel. 2 million kilograms are required, and a single measurement error could vaporize California, which is why Grace's operation has been moved onto a ship in the middle of the ocean. The mission, Project Hail Mary, will carry a pilot, an engineer, and a scientist. They will travel at near light speed, investigate Tau Ceti, and send findings home via data probes. There is no return fuel. The crew will die in space. The alternative is starvation, collapse, and extinction on Earth. Back in the present, Grace visits his 2 dead crewmates in their pods, Commander Yao and Olesia Ilyushkina. He speaks to their photographs quietly. He tells them they were smart, strong, brave, very loved, and deserved more than this. He opens the airlock and gives them a final send-off into the vastness of space. The countdown to Tau Ceti orbit begins. Grace protests to the onboard AI that he is not a pilot. The engine cuts. The ship enters orbit. The Petrovon scope activates. Tau Ceti has its own Petrovon line, but the star is not dimming. He stares at it, trying to understand why. Before he can think, the computer flags Blip A, an unidentified object approaching. Grace panics, hits the wrong controls, and stumbles through the ship. The object sends something toward the Hail Mary, Blip B, making contact without incident. A second follows, launched more slowly. Grace reads it as a signal. Whatever's out there thinks he is slow and is being gentle. He resolves to go outside and catch the next one. He performs his first ever spacewalk, stumbling through every preparation step, muttering through every terrifying moment in open space. He retrieves the object successfully. Back aboard, Grace inspects the artifact. It's made up of xenon, a gas on Earth, which confuses him. He discovers the alien has sent a model containing its homeworld's address and a model of Tau Ceti's Petrova line. Grace places Earth's location in the model and sends it back. They exchange multiple artifacts. The alien builds a tunnel between the 2 ships. Grace travels through it and sees the alien's hand, like a rock with 3 fingers. It has built models of Grace's ship and of him catching the artifact. It signals him to return. Once Grace is back, both ships rotate in sync, creating a shared gravity-accessible area. The tunnel docks at a different point. Grace approaches the alien, separated by a glass-like wall between their atmospheres, carrying a ramen noodle model of the alien's ship. The alien reveals itself, rocky, arachnid-like, multiple limbs with no recognizable face, waving at him. Grace is startled, then realizes it is simply imitating him. It communicates through complex musical tones and perceives its environment through echolocation. Grace names it Rocky. Rocky signals him to open his helmet. Though skeptical, Grace takes the leap and can breathe. Rocky has supplied oxygen. Grace shows Rocky numbers on his fingers, then a clock. Rocky produces its own clock, signaling it also experiences time. They establish a thumbs-up equivalent, though Rocky's is reversed. Grace records everything to generate a form of communication. In a video diary to Mission Control, Grace narrates his findings. Rocky is a mechanic who fabricates objects from a metallic solid form of xenon. Grace names it Xenonite. When Rocky cannot explain something verbally, it performs a puppet show. Rocky's home star is also dying from the astrophage.
Two beings from two dying worlds sent alone to the same star have found each other. As their shared vocabulary grows, they exchange personal histories. Rocky is from the planet Arid. Rocky had a crew of 23 Iridians who were all dead. Grace still has almost no memory, so when Rocky asks why he is alone, he can only say he wishes he knew. Rocky tells Grace it watched its own crew for many days and could not wake them. They seal their scientific partnership with a fist bump, a concept Grace has to teach from scratch. Rocky enthusiastically but incorrectly declares, "Fist my bump." Rocky asks with genuine curiosity why a school teacher is on this mission. Grace says he has absolutely no idea. Rocky finds this acceptable. Grace will find out when he gets home. Grace explains sleep, and Rocky initially believes Grace is dying. Grace demonstrates, eyes closed and still, and wakes up after 29,000 seconds. Rocky reveals that Iridians are completely paralyzed during sleep and utterly defenseless. An Iridian must always have someone watching over them. Rocky immediately volunteers to stand watch. Grace is touched and a little unsettled. In a flashback, Eva Strat introduces Grace to the Hail Mary crew, Commander Yao the pilot, Ilyukina the engineer, and Dubois the science officer. Grace briefs them on astrophage and the spin drive, 1009 engines that attract astrophage using CO2 frequency infrared light. He demonstrates with less than a gram of astrophage melting a metric ton of metal. Grace tells Yao he is not brave enough to commit to a one-way mission. Yao replies, "It is not about being brave. You just need to find someone to be brave for." Back in the present, Rocky comes inside Grace's ship, announced via a pressurized ball suit, and moves all over the lab, examining everything. It declares it a room for garbage and begins rearranging immediately. It asks where its bedroom is. Grace processes the fact that he now has a roommate. In a video log, Grace tells us that Rocky can hear everything, even through walls. Grace's privacy is gone. Grace also discovers that Rocky's species have no concept of relativity or radiation. Space radiation sickened Rocky's crew. Rocky survived only because its room was adjacent to the astrophage fuel tank, which absorbed the exposure. Together, they define the central scientific problem. Astrophage reaches Tau Ceti, confirmed by the Petrova line, but the star is not dimming. Something must be regulating the astrophage population. They need samples from inside the Petrova line at the planet where astrophage breeds. They name the planet Adrian, after Rocky's mate back on Arid. They enter Adrian's orbit and collect samples. Inside the sample, Grace finds something extraordinary. Not just astrophage, but an entire biosphere, bacteria, protozoa, complex organisms, and a predator. Something native to Adrian's clouds is consuming the astrophage. This is why Tau Ceti is not dimming. A local organism has evolved to prey on astrophage and holds its population in balance. Rocky is overwhelmed with excitement. If they bring this organism home and release it into the Petrova lines of their respective stars, it will consume the astrophage and save both suns. Life on Adrian is the answer. However, collecting Adrian's organisms presents its own engineering challenge. The ships cannot enter Adrian's atmosphere. The forces would tear Hail Mary apart, as it was not designed to handle extreme pressure. Rocky's solution, a 5-kilometer xenonite chain with a collector at the end, lowered into the upper atmosphere like a fishing line. Grace must fly at a precise angle while Rocky manages the chain. Any error and they both die. Rocky trains Grace to pilot. The sessions are chaotic, and Rocky is mercilessly critical while Grace barely maintains control. Mid-training, Rocky asks why Grace does not simply tell Earth everything himself when he gets home. Grace pauses, then admits the truth. This is a one-way mission. There was enough astrophage to get here, but not to return. When the mission is done, Grace will remain in the Tau Ceti system until his food runs out. Rocky is devastated. Grace says he made peace with it. Rocky refuses to accept that. It asks how much astrophage Grace needs to get home. He needs 2 million kilograms. After a moment of silence, Rocky offers its own fuel supply. The cost would be 6 additional years on the return journey to Arid. Grace tries to refuse, but Rocky insists. Grace breaks down. He had told himself he made peace with dying, but he had not. Rocky pulls Grace into something resembling a hug, clumsy, enormous, and genuinely warm. Collection day arrives.
They lower the chain into Adrian's upper clouds. Grace goes onto the hull to retrieve the collector, the sky glowing, partially on fire from friction. Rocky offers words of encouragement to soothe Grace. The collector surfaces and Grace grabs it. But Grace is struck by a piece of debris and loses the collector.
The altitude warning sounds. The ship is too deep. Adrian's gravity is bending the hull. Rocky screams for Grace to come inside. Grace moves to secure the collector rather than risk losing it. Rocky tells him to abort. Grace finishes the job and gets inside. The hull groans. Gravity tears 2 fuel compartments apart. Grace jettisons both compromised bays, losing significant reserves. They barely pull into stable orbit and go into a spiral. The shaking knocks Grace unconscious. Rocky breaks through its barrier, drags him out, and places an oxygen mask over him, but Rocky itself begins deteriorating in Grace's oxygen-rich atmosphere. The final major flashback arrives. Just before the Hail Mary's launch, a team member loses their life in a measurement accident. 1 milligram of astrophage vaporizes an entire lab crew instantly. The mission cannot be delayed. If they miss this orbital window, it would set them back months. Strat needs a replacement science officer. Grace is the only candidate. Grace refuses outright. He is not an astronaut, has had no training, gets sick on elevators. Strat is unmoved. If he does not go, he dies in 30 years alongside the rest of humanity without having tried. He has no family, no dog, and has attended every major mission meeting. He is ready. He has 3 hours to decide. He decides no. Strat calmly says she is not trying to change his mind and brings in a sedative. Grace bolts, running and screaming through corridors. The sedative takes him. As consciousness leaves him, Strat says, "This may seem like me betraying you, but it's actually me believing in you." In the present, Grace wakes to find Rocky missing. He follows a trail of charred marks and finds Rocky in a terrible condition. While Rocky sleeps, paralyzed and defenseless as all Iridians are, Grace watches over his friend, exactly as Rocky once watched over him. Working alone, Grace breeds a new strain of the predator organism, naming it Taumoeba, selecting for a variant that survives nitrogen. The original strain dies when nitrogen is introduced. This one does not. Enough to save Earth, enough to save Arid. Grace records a journal entry. He does not know what to do anymore. His work is finished. He falls asleep and wakes to Rocky tapping beside him. Rocky has come back. Grace immediately hugs his friend and brings him to the room where the bacteria are kept. They celebrate. Rocky wears a special Iridian ceremonial outfit. Grace gifts Rocky a laptop containing all of human knowledge and a small model of Earth. Rocky says he has nothing to gift Grace, and Grace tells him he gave him everything. Grace says he wants to see Rocky's ship. Rocky takes him over. Grace wears a glass suit and enters, all transparent geometric structures he cannot make sense of. The time to separate arrives. Grace tries to say goodbye. Rocky tells him Iridians have no word for goodbye. Instead, Rocky does what Iridians do in parting. The two ships slowly pull apart. Grace watches Rocky's vessel disappear into the darkness of space. The mission is complete. With Rocky's gifted fuel, Grace begins the journey home. The computer announces the trip to Earth will take 4 years, 2 months, and 11 days. Then, the computer flags a contaminant, a leak. The Taumoeba, bred inside Rocky's Xenonite tanks, has evolved to penetrate Xenonite itself. Grace caught the leak on his own ship in time, but Rocky's entire vessel is Xenonite. The Taumoeba is already in Rocky's fuel lines, and Rocky will never find the leak because the leak is the ship itself. Without fuel, life support will fail. Rocky faces a slow death alone in space. Grace cannot do both. He can go home, or he can save Rocky. He turns around. He launches 4 data probes named John, George, Paul, and Ringo toward Earth, loaded with complete findings, logs, Taumoeba samples, and a personal message. Rocky is drifting, fuel depleted, when Grace finds him. He reaches the ship's entrance and finds a glass barrier. He bangs on it desperately. Rocky eventually appears and is ecstatic to see Grace. They embrace. The final scene is on Irid. Rocky has made it home. Using Grace's laptop loaded with all of human knowledge, Iridian scientists have built a replica Earth biome, warm, foggy, filled with trees, with the sound of ocean waves. Ryland Grace is teaching again. A classroom of young Iridians has gathered around him. He calls them to order and asks who can tell him the speed of light. The answer is 186,000 miles per second. Rocky tells him their scientists have arranged his ship to take him home. Grace says he will think about it. He has become a teacher again, this time for all the Rockies. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the recap. Please hit that like button and make sure to subscribe. See you in the next recap.